Hello everyone, it's Saturday and that means it's time for me to talk about an episode of an animated television show about superheroes. Today, I will be talking about an episode of Batman the Animated Series titled Fear of Victory. If you have not seen this episode, or if you have but it's been a while, I will be spoiling stuff. So if you hate spoilers, or if you like spoilers, then take whatever precautions you need to take now before I get into the plot of this episode. The plot of this episode is pretty simple. The Scarecrow is delivering telegrams laced with fear toxin to various sports stars. The difference between this fear toxin and what we've seen him use in this series before is that this is triggered by adrenaline. And then during the heat of the game, Scarecrow will bet against the player he has contaminated and make big money. The way Batman and Robin get caught up in this is that Robin's roommate happens to be one of the targeted stars, and both Robin and his roommate get the fear toxin on their hands. So when Batman and Robin are about to foil some guys robbing the side of a building, Robin panics and almost allows the guys to get away, and for Batman and himself to almost get killed. In the climax, where Scarecrow realizes his plan has been foiled, he nearly infects the entire stadium full of people with his toxin, but Robin is able to conquer his fears and help Batman put away Scarecrow. Cue credits. So this is a pretty solid episode, I think. The very first thing I noticed when I was watching this episode is that it reminded me a great deal of a Batman comic book from the 1980s, Detective Comics 571. That issue also features Scarecrow targeting sports stars, but instead of making them feel fear, he takes away their fear, which has equally disastrous results. I have to think that the people behind this series were at least thinking of that comic when this episode was being made, just like how I think Year One was on their minds when On Leather Wings was being made, and The Dark Knight Returns was on their minds when they were making Be a Clown. Though this is considerably more similar to the comic book, whereas those other episodes only take small elements from those comic book stories. I really like that this episode is not about a villain targeting Batman or someone else. Scarecrow is a loon, but he's at least making decisions that make sense from a character level. I've always had problems with long-running villains who perpetually try to go toe-to-toe with a villain who consistently puts them behind bars. Scarecrow escapes from Arkham, and his first thought is not putting Batman away for good. It's to make some money. I like that. And I can buy the way Batman and Robin get pulled into this whole thing. I do think that it's a little silly that Scarecrow's initial way of delivering the fear toxin to the athletes is by telegram. I get that this series wanted to have a sense of timelessness about it. That's why in almost all of the scenes where someone is watching television, it's in black and white, and the television sets themselves look like they're from the 1950s. So maybe putting telegrams in this episode is along the same lines, to make it feel sorta timeless by incorporating old stuff with new stuff. But while I don't have a problem with black and white TVs, I feel like telegrams just dates this show in an inexcusable way. Even when this episode came out, telegrams weren't being used, while television was and is still a thing today, even if it's not in black and white. I wouldn't make such a big deal out of this if there wasn't such an easy fix for this. Maybe instead of telegrams, Scarecrow could be posing as a delivery man, which is something that won't date an episode for a long time to come. And then this would still allow for Robin to be pulled into the plot the way that he is. Although I do have to question why Scarecrow would even bother with the telegram thing. In the climax, he puts the fear toxin in the football player's helmet. He wasn't aware that Batman was onto him when he did this, so it makes me wonder why he didn't bother with the telegram this time, or why he did use the telegrams in the previous games that he fixed. Why not put the fear toxin on a tennis player's racket, or in the hockey player's helmet? I know it's so that Robin can be affected by the toxin as well, and if his roommate was affected because it was in his helmet, then he wouldn't be affected. Still, it bothers me. This episode really is great, so when I complain about little stuff like this, it's only because the tiniest nitpicks become enormous when there's nothing else for me to take note of. I really enjoyed Robin's character arc here, and I didn't find him quite so obnoxious as I did in Christmas with the Joker, so that's also a plus. So that's really all I've got here. Very enjoyable and great episode. I hope you guys enjoyed the episode as much as I did, and I hope you enjoyed this review as well. And if you did, be sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe. I will be back next Saturday to talk about an episode of the Legion of Superheroes cartoon. And the weekend after that, I'll be back to talk about another episode of Batman the Animated Series. And be sure to come back throughout the week to see and hear some of my other videos. Until then, have a great day.